What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. Multiple things for you guys here in this video. We got a lot to talk about here today. First,
and a happy Labor Day from an on-camera ready Laurel. And here's who would like to see my healing wound?
my wife cut her finger and had to go to the ER a few days ago. You can see it.
I'm trying to get it to focus. There we go.
Yeah, you can see her wound there. Yeah.
It's glued shut. So, on camera ready. Have a happy Labor Day.
Yeah. That was fun. So, happy Labor Day weekend. So, NASA has delayed their trip to the moon yet again after another fuel leak. Yeah, the second launch attempt has halted due to a fuel leak yet again.
Better to be safe than sorry, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we've learned, an O-ring can lead to
yeah, those darn O-rings, right? NASA's postponing the Artemis 1 launch to go to the moon after making a second attempt to get the mission off the ground. They're working towards the debut of the Space Launch System rocket and the Orion capsule for what would be more than a month-long journey around the moon. The hydrogen leak in the rocket's engine section led to Saturday's postponement here yet again. So yeah, I'll keep you up to date here on when they're going to launch with this, but they've had a couple different fuel leaks on this now several times, so we'll see here. Next up, we have former Trump Attorney General Bill Barr had some interesting things to say here on Fox News. Now, remember, he was Trump's Attorney General, and he was the Attorney General for former President George H.W. Bush as well. So he's a Republican. He was the Republican Attorney General, and he was the Attorney General underneath former President Trump. Okay, listen to what he has to say here. Check this out.
Former Attorney General Bill Barr, thank you very much for joining us. Author of the best-selling book, One Damn Thing After Another. A lot happening here and a lot for the American people to take in. There's a lot of questions still unanswered. Where do you stand on the former president's request, obviously, for a special master to independently review this case, and what happened, obviously, looking back at a very serious raid of a former president's home?
Well, I think the whole idea of a special master is a bit of a red herring. The only documents that have been taken, it seems to me, that there's a legitimate concern about keeping away from the government and insulating the government from would be documents relating to his private lawyer communications, him as an individual and his outside lawyers. If there's stuff like that, fine, identify it. There doesn't appear to be much of it. I'm not sure you need a special master to identify it, but what people are missing is that all the other documents taken, even if they claim to be executive privilege, either belong to the government because they're government records, even if they're classified, even if they're subject to executive privilege, they still belong to the government and go to the archives. And any other documents that were seized, like news clippings and other things that were in the boxes containing the classified information, those were seizable under the warrant because they show the conditions under which the classified information was being held. So I think it's a red herring. I think it would, at this stage, since they've already gone through the documents, I think it's a waste of time.
Attorney General Barr, we've seen that famous photo of all of the top secret / SCI materials arrayed on the floor in President Trump's office there at Mar-a-Lago. He claims that he had a standing order to declassify anything that he took out of the White House when he left in January of 2021. Is there any legitimate reason for those materials to be in the former president's possession?
No, I can't think of a legitimate reason why they could be taken out of the government, away from the government, if they're classified. I frankly am skeptical of this claim that I declassified everything, because frankly, I think it's highly improbable. And second, if in fact he sort of stood over scores of boxes, not really knowing what was in them, and said, I hereby declassify everything in here, that would be such an abuse and show such recklessness that it's almost worse than taking the documents.
To that point, though, there's some questions over the timeline. And there are some who fall in the camp of this was, looking at the unprecedented nature of a raid of a former president's home like this, that perhaps there was more room for the authorities to obtain these materials without raiding the president's home while he was not even there. Do you think this type of, this raid was avoidable? Do you think a second subpoena, for example, could have been issued?
Well, I think whether the raid was reasonable under the circumstances, whether there's in fact a case to be made, and whether or not, as a matter of prudential judgment, that case should be brought, depend on two questions. The character of those top secret documents and secret documents, how sensitive were they? Second, how raw is the evidence of deceit and obstruction? Do they have really good evidence from people who were involved of
What do you
deceit?
think the answer to that is?
I personally think for them to have taken things to the current point, they probably have pretty good evidence. But that's speculation, and until we see that, it's hard to say. Now, let me just say, I think the driver on this from the beginning was loads of classified information sitting in Mar-a-Lago. People say this was unprecedented. Well, it's also unprecedented for a president to take all this classified information and put him in a country club, okay? And how long is the government going to try to get that back? They jawbone for a year. They were deceived on the voluntary actions taken. They then went and got a subpoena. They were deceived on that. They feel, and the facts are starting to show that they were being jerked around. And so how long do they wait?
So let me know your thoughts on this. This is, the former attorney general that was underneath Trump. Okay, he was there with Trump. He was also there with former President Bush. Okay, he's a Republican. I mean, they don't say these type of things if this wasn't, and of course, Trump comes out and blasts him after he says this, and of course he did this with Pence. He does this, Trump seems to do this whenever it's just anything that he doesn't want to hear. The problem is that this is, the reality of it is that he wasn't supposed to have these documents. And this is why the FBI went and took these back. The National Archives was trying to get these documents for months and for months and for months. And even if we go with the whole defense argument that he declassified them, he's still not supposed to have them. Even the over 10,000 government documents that are non-classified, they're still government property. They're not supposed to be, like Trump's not supposed to own them. They're government property, okay? They're supposed to be in the hands of the government. So even if he said he declassifies them, which is from what I've understood from all these legal analysts that have studied this situation, he can't just wave his hand over and say I declassify this. That's not exactly how the process is done. He still can't just keep them. So that's the problem here with this, is that he would still, and that's why the FBI was trying to get them for months and months and months. They sent a subpoena to Trump, and he ignored the subpoena and did not give them back. And remember that the Trump lawyers gave a written statement back to the FBI after the first time that they got documents back from Trump that said, this is it. This is all of the documents. You have it all, which was not true, because now we know that they went there with the search and seizure, and there was obviously a lot more. So That's where there could be criminal charges if they want to go ahead and file them, because they gave a written statement to the government that was false, because they gave a statement to the government and said, you have all the documents, and clearly that wasn't the case. I mean, it's a false statement. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts around it that that they didn't give all the documents back. So let me know your thoughts on this, but this is going to be a very big thing here. Okay, next up, I just want to show you this headline here. Student loan companies are raising serious concerns by offering refinancing options to borrowers that could make them ineligible for Biden's debt cancellation. So you need to be careful with this, because if a student loan company comes to you and says, let's refinance your student loans, and that takes you out of a federal student loan, that would make you ineligible for student loan debt cancellation, because remember, the student loan debt cancellation is for federal student loans. So, again, make sure that you tell this to anybody or share this video with anybody, so that they're aware of this. And this is important here, because they're saying that the student loan forgiveness will wipe out the debt completely for up to 1/3 of borrowers. They're saying potentially up to 20 million Americans will get their student loan debt canceled completely. However, this is a really big if, because it's going to take some time to do this, and Republicans might be challenging this. Yeah. So I hate to report this, guys, but here it is right here from the Washington Post. I have multiple sources I'll show you here. Republicans are readying lawsuits to block Biden's student loan debt cancellation. Remember, this is for 43 million Americans. I'm not going to get the student loan debt cancellation. We actually paid off my student loan debts. I actually only went to college for a short time. I went on to be an entrepreneur, but my wife has a full-on degree for a business degree, and we paid off her student loans as well. I have no ill will, though. I think that people that need help should get it, because these student loan debt, people pay on them for years and years and years. 43 million Americans are going to get help here, and I'm all for anybody that can get help, right? But look at this headline here: Republicans are readying lawsuits to block Biden's student debt plan. Republican attorneys general, I don't know if they worded that right. Top lawmakers and conservative groups are discussing legal options, alleging the White House move to cancel student debt is illegal. That's from the Washington Post. Here's another major headline from CNN. Republicans consider suing Biden over student loan forgiveness. Here's another one from CNBC. White House fires back at Republicans planning to challenge student loan forgiveness. So this could, don't count your chickens before they're hatched, because this could be a massive legal battle. And remember, the Supreme Court is controlled by Republicans. Republican state attorney generals and other leading conservatives are exploring a slew of potential lawsuits targeting Biden's plan to cancel some student debt. Challenges that could limit or invalidate the policy before it even takes effect. In recent days, a number of attorney generals from states including Arizona, Missouri, and Texas have met privately to discuss a strategy that could see multiple cases filed in different courtrooms around the country, according to a person familiar with their thinking who, like others spoke on condition of being anonymous to describe the confidential talks. Quote, "We're going through that analysis right now, not only in Arizona, but other states as well," said Attorney General Mark Brnovich later here that day. "You have a dangerous precedent. Anytime any president thinks they can unilaterally, which means through executive order, dismiss debt or transfer wealth from one group to another, it's a huge power grab. The ends can't justify the means. But remember here that former President Trump did do an executive order for a similar thing. He did an executive order to transfer funds from one place to another with funds that were already approved. Or yeah, I mean, it's a different situation here, but it's similar in the fact that it was money that went out to help Americans. Okay, so in that case, he did an executive order for. Let me think about this. So it was $1,800 to $2,400 checks from the disaster relief fund. He did it right before the election in the 2020 election. He did an executive order and said, I'm going to send out checks, stimulus checks, unemployment checks, whatever you want to call them. And he did this executive order and sent out checks to unemployed Americans. So millions and millions of Americans got these bonus unemployment checks. This was back when unemployment bonus checks were going on. Remember, the $600 unemployment checks were underneath former President Donald Trump. Okay, and eventually they went down to $300 per week, and they had lapsed at this point because of if we go all the way back, there was, I don't know, a lapse in Congress. They couldn't agree or something like that. Okay. Well, Trump said, no, I want to send out an executive order right before the election. And, of course, people right now are saying, oh, this is an election scheme by Biden to get votes. Well, Trump did a similar thing right before the election to, and again, whether you think it's to get votes or not, whatever. But it sent out 6 checks of $300 per week for a total of $1,800. States were allowed to add $100 per week, so it could have been a total of $2,400 to people who were unemployed at the time. Okay, so it was $1,800 to $2,400 to people that were unemployed. And it was money that was already approved by Congress. So it was stimulus money that was already approved. It was sitting in the Disaster Relief Fund, the DRF, and the executive order just reallocated it from one fund to the other. Okay, and this is why a lot of people think that Biden can do the same thing with stimulus money as well, because there's like $800 billion that's already been approved. We just seen a recent report. I did a video on it. There's over $100 billion just in the education funds right now that schools have only spent like 12% of. Okay, so schools have like over $100 billion from the last stimulus package and have only spent 12% of it. So there's probably way more money in there than they need, and over $100 billion just for schools. But there, in total, from the last stimulus packages, 1, 2 from Trump and 3 from Biden, all those combined, there's the last report we've seen that kind of added all up and estimated the money and stuff like there. There's around $800 billion. Okay, so that could be done through an executive order, and the money could be redistributed for stimulus checks or unemployment checks or other type of relief here. But if Republicans challenge the executive order for student loan forgiveness, they could do that. They could challenge it. I remember saying back then, back in 2020, Democrats could have challenged the executive order for the unemployment bonuses, the checks from Trump. But I said I thought it would have been a mistake for Democrats to do that. And I said I don't think the Democrats should do that, because that would be taking money out of people's pockets. This is people that money need for food, for rent, and to feed their families. These are people who just lost their jobs. Okay, I don't think the Democrats should do that. I think that would be a mistake on the Democrats' parts. Okay, and I honestly think that this would be a mistake on the Republicans' parts this time, because again, I'm not from either party. I just call it as I see it, and I think that if you take money out of people's pockets, one, you're going to lose a lot of votes. Two, you're going to make people angry. Imagine if you were going to get help and you have been paying on student loans for years and years and years and years, And all of a sudden, finally, you get a president that, whether the president's name is Biden or Trump or whoever the president is, just take the president's name out of it. Who cares who the president is? Finally, you've been paying on these student loans for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 7 years, however many years. Finally, you get a president that comes along and says, I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you some student loan debt relief. And then the other political party, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, just take the party out of it, right? The other party says, no, we don't want you to get help. Imagine how you would feel. Okay. Now, let's think a little bit forward here. Imagine if the other party, again, Democrats or Republicans, would have taken that money away from unemployed Americans. Now let's look forward in the future. There's going to potentially be a massive raise for SNAP benefits, food assistance benefits. What if one party challenges that and we take that away from people? What about going here forward in the future if we have food assistance, rent assistance, another stimulus check? Think about all the programs we have going forward here right now. We have all these state stimulus checks. We have more things coming out here in the future. I mean, think about all the different programs we've had. 3 stimulus checks, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance, unemployment benefits. We've had paycheck protection program, the PPP program. Imagine if all these programs, stimulus checks and everything, start getting challenged and taken away from the other party, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. Now all of a sudden we're going to say, let's not help people. Let's just have the other party, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to help people. Is that really what we want to happen? So even if this particular program of student loan forgiveness doesn't help you, the next one might. The next program might help you. The next program might be food stamp assistance. The next program might be rent assistance. The next program might be homeowners assistance, which they have going on right now. I'll link you to some videos here right now. But the next program might be a stimulus check or a Social Security raise. What if the next program is a Social Security raise that they pass, and then all of a sudden they say, nope, the other party says we're going to challenge it, and the Supreme Court's going to strike it down. Sets a very bad precedence. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I will keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. So make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so, and I will keep you up to date here with everything going on here on a daily basis. You can click here to watch my newest video on stimulus going out to millions of people here. And you can click this video here to see my newest video on Social Security raises of $2,400. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.